Podcasts are hot right now. How do I know? Well, you're listening to one right now, aren't you? But you might be wondering, how on earth do I get my voice out there and start my own podcast? It all seems so intimidating. Between hosting and platforms and monetization, it can get real complicated real quick. Well, I'm going to let you in on a little secret. We started this podcast over 2 years ago, not knowing clue one on how to do it. So how do we do it? We did it with Anchor. Anchor is the free podcast app with creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. And Anchor will distribute your podcast for you, so it can be heard on all the platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. And everybody likes money, right? Well, you can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. So go right now, download the free Anchor app, or go to Anchor FM to get started. It's the eCommerce Minute, your daily dose of e-commerce, tech, and retail news with your host, John Suder, Bart, Mroz, and Brittany Blackman. The eCommerce Minute is a production of SUMO Heavy, a digital commerce consulting firm located in Brooklyn, New York, and Philadelphia. Find us on the web at sumoheavy.com.
Hello, listeners. It's Brittany Blackman, Junior Marketing Coordinator at SUMO Heavy. A quick note. We're in an unprecedented time, but with this comes an unprecedented amount of unity. Everyone is coming together to help, no matter what industry they're in. And now we're doing our part. If you advertise on the eCommerce Minute, we'll donate 100% of the proceeds to Slice Out Hunger. Slice Out Hunger sends pizza to healthcare workers on the front lines of the COVID-19 pandemic while simultaneously supporting small businesses. To get involved, drop us a note at hello@sumoheavy.com or reach out through our various social media accounts. Stay safe, stay inside, and wash your hands. We're all in this together.
It's eCommerce Minute, episode 683.
In today's episode, car dealers pivot to e-commerce for sales.
As we adjust to the new normal in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic, ubiquitous parts of everyday life continue to change. Restaurants are closed, retail stores shuttered, and events being rescheduled. But what if you need a new car in the next few months? Is it even possible to buy a new car now? Can I get mine fixed during the pandemic? We're going to try to clear up some of those questions for you. For starters, many new and used automobile dealerships are trying concierge-like services and testing the potential for e-commerce. One example is Peterson Toyota, a franchise dealer in Boise, Idaho, who posted a message on its website on March 18th alerting customers they'd have new options to purchase vehicles. Shoppers in the area were still welcome to visit Peterson's dealership, or they could complete most of the buying process online, including receiving an estimated trade-in offer and applying for financing. Test drives could be done at home or at the consumer's place of work. This approach is by no means unique. Many automobile dealers around the United States are trying similar methods. The owner of one used car dealership said he believed the sorts of services his company was trying included things like video calls and at-home test drives, and these tests would probably stick around longer than the coronavirus. In fact, he believed mandated closures and waning sales would push the industry closer to what he calls e-contracting. New and used car dealers typically have state requirements, which would make the e-commerce transaction a bit more complicated than purchasing apparel, electronics, or sporting goods. But in the end, most of the transaction could probably take place online moving forward. At Vandergrift Toyota in North Texas, shopping is online or by appointment only, and salespeople are chatting with customers via video to deliver new car orientations while social distancing. In the service department, deemed an essential business, employees are spread out. Services are constantly wiped down, and there's even a safety patrol to make sure customers are keeping a safe distance. Biochemical safe service sanitizing now tops the list of complimentary services. And for first responders, they're offering free oil changes, which are around $11 for everyone else. For those who are nervous about leaving their homes, free car pickup and delivery is also an option. And the paperwork usually reserved for the finance office can now be signed at your kitchen table. A few companies have already been using e-commerce to sell cars. One example is Carvana, which we did a story way back in September 2017, if you want to look that up. Founded in 2012, Carvana is an online used car dealership with more than 20,000 vehicles in inventory. The company made news early on with its free delivery service, next day for about 160 U.S. markets, and its massive and showy used car vending machines. Despite these grim events, Thomas King, J.D. Power's president of data and analytics, said car buyers will likely bounce back after an extended shutdown, which will hopefully help the industry recover. Another story of people pivoting to keep the money coming in. I think this is pretty good to a point. You know, it's kind of like what I always say, you don't want to buy a mattress online, and you certainly don't want to buy a car online, but if they could make it as frictionless for the company, I like this car, bring it to me and let me test drive it, I think it could work to an extent. unless you've got that kind of Christmas, like, no, can you bring me another car? Oh, no, can you bring me another car?
It's kind of interesting, right? Like because we bought a car last year and I looked at them online all over the place and I was like, I want to do that one, right? Like we got a Hyundai Kona, but I looked at a whole bunch of cars and I didn't test drive it until we literally got there, drove it, and we bought it. But does it make sense to test drive a lot of cars now? Or you just kind of go, this is what I kind of want?
Yeah, it's true. And that there's two conversations there. So what we've seen in the last, I would even say 20 years, is that obviously e-commerce is a big component of car buying now. Smart buyers, which would be anybody who has more than $50 in their pocket and has a brain in their head, will do research online to figure out what kind of car they want to buy, what they can afford, what the financing is all about. They'll answer all those questions instead of the old days where it's like, I'm going to go buy a car, and you basically spend an entire Saturday just walking around the car dealerships not knowing what's what. The way I did it, I bought a used car. I knew I wanted a Ford Escape. I knew what color I wanted. I knew what features. I found it. I nailed it down. I snuck into the car dealership while they weren't looking to look at it, so I didn't get hounded by a salesman, and I liked it. So, I mean, that's the way you buy cars now. It works for the car dealership because then the salesman's not having to talk to a customer for 5 hours, showing him 7 different cars. I think a lot of people walk in and say, I want a Hyundai Escape, 4 doors, sunroof, etc., and this is the color I wanted it.
Yeah, I mean, the bigger thing about car buying now is like not in the olden days that their percentage, what they make on it, is between 2 and 5%. Yeah. So you can't really haggle anything anymore. Like you just can't. And then the internet came along and they're like, here's the pricing and I can just go anywhere. So they're not making money really off cars at all. Like they'd rather have it financed, first of all.
Yeah,
or
money
leased,
on the financing,
right?
the service, and the warranties, and all that crap.
And they're making all those things. They're not making any money on the car itself. So the days of going to a car lot and a salesman telling you, well, it's going to be say $5,000, and you go, well, I'm only willing to pay 2. They'd be like, I can't help you. There's no way they're going to go anywhere near that anymore.
Yeah, and like I said, and time is a big factor now. People don't want to spend a whole day at a car dealership. We bought 2 cars in the last 4 years, and I would say clocking in and out no more than 3 hours each experience, which was great because I remember buying cars. I'd be like, I'm take a half day off of work because I'm going to go buy a car, and the sun's going down, and let me talk to my manager. It's like they do all those psychological tactics to wear you down, and
yeah, you don't really have, right. It's not even a thing. So the funny thing is, for us, I think the longest process was the finance conversation. They literally went, they're like, listen, it's going to take a while because we had a whole bunch of people buy cars. They're like, here's our temp tags. Here's the dealer tag. Come back in 2 days. We'll have all the paperwork for you. I was like, okay. Perfect. So I think that also will change the conversation. And the more electronic they can go, they're still doing it on paper.
That's one thing I don't get. A lot of this stuff still has to happen in person, still has to happen, okay, sit here and sign this stack of documents. Maybe it's a legal thing, or I don't know what the deal
is. It's not. Electronic signatures have been legal and, enforceable forever now. It really does crack me up. Like you can even now do notary online. Like you don't have to go anywhere as long as it'll stay you are. There's plenty of apps out there. Yeah. Oh yeah. It's basically you send a document, you get online with video, and they like scan your license, here you are, sign it, what is this for? And they sign it, good to go. It's notarized. It's actually fully legal notarization. So the services like going somewhere and signing something now, they're going to have to go away with it. Like if doctor's offices are doing doctor appointments now online, you can sign legal documents online just fine. Anyway, besides that, I think this car thing, I don't know how you feel about that, but I think people also like are sort of, they're not stuck, but like you've been buying Jeeps forever, right? Mm-hmm. Like that's your thing, but you like a certain car and you kind of know what you want. And I think most people do. They don't just go randomly shop at every dealership there is.
Yeah, I was going to make that point in that when people buy cars now, it's not so much that, I hate to say it, but cars are pretty generic now. If you like a certain style, that's great. But that car really isn't going to differ. If you're looking for the term mid-size sedan, if that even exists anymore, they're all the same. They're all the same. Mm-hmm. There may be different styling, but the cars are all the same. They all have to have the same sort of mileage. They all use the same sort of drivetrain. They all kind of drive the same, unless you're getting into the luxury market. And that is a whole different conversation. But to buy a basic car, unless you're buying a really old used car, they're all the same. They're all pretty reliable. I don't know of any cars right now that you would even call like a junker. Like back even 10 years ago, you could identify certain brands. It was like, oh, you want to stay away from that brand. But I think because of the margins, because they have to be more reactive to customers and the competition is so fierce, I think they're all pretty much on the same footing in terms of their offerings. Now, service that goes from dealership is not much you can change about that. And when we talk about these individual dealers, being innovative and trying to pivot and try to offer different things to the customers, I think it's really great. Like you imagine a guy who's got a Toyota dealership and keep his customers engaged. Well, video walkthroughs are going to be huge now. They were a big thing before, but I think they're going to be huge. I'm reading things about the real estate market where it's like, what are realtors doing now? They're freaking out. Well, you know what? Those little robots that they used to have, we used to make fun of, the robot that has the iPad with the guy's face on it. Realtors are doing this, and they're letting the customer, they take the robot into the house and let them walk around the house with that.
Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of people doing it over FaceTime for a long time now. People like in the luxury space, like people are not there to buy them. Yeah, how many times
buy the house over FaceTime? I was like, what? My God.
$10-20 million house, and you just bought it over FaceTime.
It's like, what do you think?
Just walking through everything.
It was Kevin Hart, wasn't it?
No, I don't remember what it was.
I don't remember.
In any case, it doesn't really matter.
We're talking about this guy. He's got a TV show, but he's also got a good YouTube channel. Ryan Serhant.
Serhant, yep.
Yeah, look it up. It's pretty good. Vehicle sales in U.S. states that implemented lockdown orders to curb the spread of the coronavirus will drop 80% or more, analysts say, according to Reuters. Auto retail sales through the week of March 22nd declined 22% nationwide on a yearly basis and as much as 40% in some cities on the U.S. West Coast, according to an analysis by research firm J.D. Power. And finally, dealership company Group 1 Automotive told investors its overall U.S. vehicle sales volumes were down 50 to 70% from regular expected March sales. Group 1 said it would cut its marketing expenses by more than 75% and furlough 3,000 employees for 30 days with a possible extension of up to another 30 days. That's sad news. Let's hope it bounces back. I know in China, I said on another podcast, we were talking about cars, and I saw this crazy stat where car sales in China were down 90% in the middle of their lockdown, but that's kind of Captain Obvious.
Who's buying a car?
Yeah, you're not buying a car right now.
Where are you going?
Where are you going? Yeah, I haven't filled my gas tank up since March 9th, so kudos to me. All right, guys, got anything else?
No, that's it.
All right, that's your e-commerce minute for today. We'll see you on the internet tomorrow. That's it for today's show. If you like the show, do us a favor and subscribe or leave us a review on iTunes. And don't forget, you can now listen to the e-commerce minute on your Amazon device. Just add e-commerce minute to your flash briefing. And finally, if you have a comment or suggestion or just want to say hi, find us on social media @SUMO Heavy.